So, my friend, I want to ask you, have you been listening to some of my podcasts for a while and identified for yourself all the areas that you feel your business could be better in? Maybe you just are so busy you haven't yet mastered the working as much as you like bit. Or maybe you're just not bringing in the money, like you're struggling with the income, or it's just not enough. Well, it's time for us to have a conversation. In the show notes, there is a link to my evolution call. If you're a dance boss and you are ready to take action, let's have a chat and let's see where I can take you. Hello and welcome, lovelies, to the Ultimate Dance Business Podcast. My name is Deborah Laws, the dance business expert. My passion is to help you turn your passion into profit while guiding you to work less and earn more. I'm super excited to share interviews with you that I know will inspire and motivate you in your schools, as well as my solo shows where I shall be sharing some great tips and strategies. So if you love the show, please do remember to review, subscribe, and share it with your fellow dance boss friends. So let's get stuck into the business of dance. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening to me today. I wanted to talk today about a little recent experience that I've had. I was invited by a new friend, to go and do some wine tasting. Now, I have never done a wine tasting experience before, probably because I don't really like wine. In fact, I don't really drink an awful lot. So, but it was a great opportunity for me to have a kind of a girly day out with a new friendship that I was developing. And I thought it'd be fun. And it gets me out, it helps me to get to know the area a bit more. And my friend used to be a wine tour guide. So she knows a lot about wine. She's got wine qualifications. And she's just moved to this area and is starting up a new business as a tour guide. So we were going to do some research. But one of my friends said, "Oh, really? That's what you call it, Deborah." I promise it was research. And we went to 3 different vineyards. Now, they were all very, very different. And I can't help wherever I go but to think about everything in terms of business. Like, I'm dreadful. If I go to a restaurant now, I'm kind of analyzing the management, the customer experience, the pricing, the training that the staff have had. Like, I just can't help but kind of take it all in. And I found myself doing this for the whole day. And then afterwards, it got me thinking about how relative my experiences had been in these different vineyards, in terms of how it is when people come to our business, like, for example, to your dance schools. And so I just thought I would share a little bit because I just want it to maybe get you thinking a little bit about this topic. So the first vineyard we went to was really well signposted. I know it sounds ridiculous, but it was quite a nice sign. It wasn't just, a bit of carving on a bit of wood stuck at the end of a lane. So instantly I thought, oh, this is going to be nice. And then we drove in, and it was really well kept. Like, the buildings were nice. The courtyard was nice. There were beautiful flowers everywhere in pots. There was a really old-fashioned wine press. And then the main building that we went into was really nicely laid out. It was fairly modern, but it was still an old barn, so it had kind of been converted. And they had all their wines. You could see every single wine from the cheapest one all the way up to the most expensive. We were greeted by a lovely lady. I don't speak much French yet, so my friend who speaks fluent French kind of was talking to her. And then she took us through a whole wine tasting experience. And it was great. I thought it was wonderful. There were quite a lot of nice wines, even for a non-wine drinker. I came away with a few bottles, as did my friend. And then afterwards, I was like, "So how would you rate that? Was that a good vineyard?" Like, "I don't know. I've never been." And she said it was pretty good. She said, I loved the fact there was a lot of history. The vineyard had been there since 1550. She said it would have been nice if we'd actually got to meet one of the family members because it had been passed down through the generations. Apparently, this girl was the apprentice. And she said, and she had a few gaps in her knowledge where I was asking questions, obviously as an experienced, sommelier, and she just didn't quite know the answers to some of the questions. She said, so it wasn't bad. She said, but it could have been aspects that could have been a bit better. So then we went to the next vineyard. Well, we went and had some lunch first, which was rather lovely. It was just sat in a local town in the market square with music playing and sat in the sun, and oh, it's gorgeous. And then we went to the second vineyard, which was quite different. So this one was run by an American and an American lady and an English man. And it had always been their dream to move to France and own a vineyard. And they had done this about 3 years ago, but the vineyard had been there about 50 years. And they'd taken it over, and you could see from the minute we got there, they were so passionate about their new business. But the lady that did the wine tasting with us, the wife, really knew her stuff. She was really passionate. And we did the same kind of thing, same experience, and she showed us around, and it was much more kind of a quaint family home, much smaller business. But we found ourselves not really loving the wines. And afterwards, when we left, I said to my friend Rachel, what did you think of that business? And she said, not so great. And I just thought they were lovely. I thought their passion really showed. And not knowing anything about wine, I just thought, well, maybe that's just me. I didn't like them, but perhaps they were the best wines in the world. I don't know. And she said the wines were a little bit unusual in taste and flavors. And clearly this couple had been creating wines very specifically based around what they loved. And she said, that's great. She said, but it's no good if everyone's walking out without purchasing anything. So they weren't really thinking about the consumer, about the customer, and about what they were going to experience. They were just building something that they loved for themselves. She said, I think they're going to struggle. I think they're going to struggle to survive if they don't make their wines more palatable to the average wine drinker. So that was really interesting because that made me think about us as dance studio owners and about the fact that, are we doing things that we want to do in our studio, but maybe that's not what everybody actually wants, which was an interesting concept as well. And then we went to the last place, which was right on the other side of the scale. It was a very big, very commercial place, had a huge car park, like you get coaches in there. It was a big modern building. And when you looked in through the door, you could see that it probably could have taken 300 people in there. And they had many, many, many bottles of wine. So real commercial, almost corporate kind of vineyard. And we arrived and it was closed, even though the opening hours were on the door and we were within the opening hours. It was closed. There was no one there, nothing to see, which was really interesting for such a big place. And then as we got to get in the car to leave, this lady came kind of shuttling around the corner on her little bike. And she was like, oh, sorry, I'm here. And we said, oh, we're really sorry. Were you on a break? And she's like, no. And she mumbled something in French. And basically, she just sneaked off for a bit. But by this time, we'd kind of done quite a lot of wine tasting, kind of had enough anyway. So we decided to carry on. And in fact, my friend Rachel said, I wouldn't take people there anyway. She said, it's not the lovely, intimate, typical French wine tasting experience. She said, that's the kind of place that you go if you know what you want. You're just going to go and you buy your 2 or 3 crates of wine and then you disappear. Like, it's not, for me, she said, it's not what I want an experience to be all about. So I got thinking afterwards about these 3 different places. So we had one that had some great family history, nicely kept, nice wines. That was the only one that we bought wines from. So in fact, it was the only one where we turned into customers. But it just lacked the front-facing wow with somebody that really knew what they were talking about, and especially as they knew we were coming, and especially as she knew that it was a tour guide that was coming. Like, you put your best person forwards for that, wouldn't you? But they were probably in a back office somewhere dealing with, the bills and whatever else might be doing in a vineyard. and they got their least experienced person out front greeting their future customers, which to me just felt like we need you as principals. In an ideal world, if this was even possible, we need you to be out the front greeting people and doing the little tours around your studio and talking to the parents and getting them on board and building that relationship, that first touch point. And then we introduce them to the teachers and the team. And the other thing I always think is really interesting, and this is just my opinion, folks, it's not, it's not necessarily correct. But I always find it really interesting how a lot of people put their youngest, least experienced teachers in with their little ones. And I think that's where the most experienced teachers personally need to be, because we've got to make sure those foundations are built strongly. We've got to make sure that passion is seeded right from an early age if they're going to carry on with us for many years. So we need someone really good that knows how to connect with the youngest of your children, not just to build the technique, but to build the love of dance. So I thought I would just share with you guys today the planners that I have produced for dance school owners, because these are flying out of Amazon like hotcakes. And if you don't have yours yet, then all you have to do is pop to Amazon and type into the search Deborah Laws, and all 3 books will come up. So the Ultimate Dance Business Planner I designed for you so that you had a little bit of a Deborah on your desktop. The planners are full of business training, tips, motivational quotes, things to do at the start of the month, things to do at the end of the month, ways in which you can plan out your marketing and your retention, and they are selling all over the world. So go to Amazon, grab your #1 best-selling Ultimate Dance Business Planner and enjoy mapping out the growth for your studio. And so I probably wouldn't put my least experienced, newer qualified teacher in with those really important little people that could be our forever people. So that was interesting from what I learned from the first place. The second place was absolutely gorgeous, beautiful French experience, really passionate people, couldn't fault any of that, but they just weren't quite creating something that the average person would want. So, that's really knowing your market, really knowing the audience that you're attracting. And if you are attracting people that potentially want something that you're not giving them, what's that going to do? Well, what it creates is a bit of discord. It creates an expectation from your parents and your students and your adults that is different to the expectation of what you want to deliver. And then there becomes a bit of a clash. That's where you get maybe retention issues are a bit of a problem. Or maybe you get parents that are kind of quite unhappy a lot of the time. In our mind, they're moaners and grumbling and never happy and problem parents. They're not actually. They're just parents that just aren't quite getting their needs met, and they're being frustrated and they're airing that. Maybe in a worst case scenario, you're ending up butting heads and you're ending up with families that don't blend well. You've got people maybe that will fall out, maybe some unhappy families, unhappy parents, and maybe you have a lot of problems with parents in your school because of this. Potentially it's because you've attracted the wrong type of person that wants a wine that you just don't provide. And then the last one, of course, is the trickiest of all. And this is actually where I found myself. I grew my school so big. At one stage, I had 5 schools spread across 3 counties in the southwest of England. And we had over 900 students between our 5 schools and my theatre school. And I just couldn't be seen to be everywhere. And so I was nowhere. I had everybody running everything for me. I thought I could take a step back, but actually the business then lacked leadership. It lacked team mentoring. It lacked good management. And I had real problems. I had huge problems when I grew my school that big. Now, here's the thing. I'm not saying that you can't grow your school that big. I'm just saying that you need to know what you're doing if you grow your school that big. And I didn't know what I was doing. So I actually, went through a horrible time where everything just kind of crashed around me and fell apart. If I knew what I know now, I'd have known how to have built that strongly. I would have learned what role I was supposed to still have. I would have learned that, okay, Deborah, you're not in the studio anymore, and maybe you're not doing a lot of the admin anymore, but you still have a very important role, which is being the face of the business. I should have been showing up, doing Facebook Lives, picking up the phone and talking to parents, being there on reception, traveling around to my branches and seeing the parents, keeping that loyalty and that bond and those relationships going. But I wasn't. I was nowhere to be seen. And that was very similar to that last business, that last vineyard I talked to you about. There's got to be somebody really passionate still leading it, even if you're no longer the teacher that teaches everything or the person that sends all the invoices. I didn't know that at the time. And so that was a disaster for me. So I would love you to take today's little story and think to yourself, so if somebody comes into my school, into my business, right from the minute they inquire, what is it like for them? What is the experience like for them? Like, do we get back to them straight away? Do they have to wait for ages? Do they get a really simple, easy, convenient way to book a trial? Or is that difficult in itself? Do they turn up and people are expecting them? They know the parent's name, the child's name. Do they give a great experience for the child? Do they then go out and give feedback and continue to build that relationship with the parent? Does the principal then touch base with them at some point within that first couple of weeks? Is it easy for them to find out how to buy their uniform, how to sign up, what the process is? Is there someone that's still interested in them in 4 weeks' time? Or now that they've signed up, does all that lovely wow disappear? Like, really think through that whole process as if you were the vineyard. What would I be walking away saying about your business? And maybe you're doing some of those things right. Maybe you're doing most of those things right. But deep down, there's a little bit of a hole in part of that process. I'd love you to sit and just think it through and think, have a really honest conversation with yourself. If I really think about it, I know when they get in the studio for that trial lesson, the teacher is just not that great that I've got at the moment. Or maybe, once they come into the studio, everything that you've just said, Deborah, is amazing, but I'm just so busy and I don't often get back to people straight away. One of the things that I do is I help people with their pricing and their pricing structure and their discounts. And I have a little course that's called Pricing Perfection. And part of one of the little tasks that I get people to do right at the beginning of this course is go and be a bit of a secret shopper and find out what all the schools in the local area are charging for their classes. And in fact, not just the local dance schools, but also the gymnastics schools and the martial arts schools. So basically any kids' activities so that they can start to look at what the pricing is in their area. I cannot tell you the number of people that come back to me after 2 weeks and say, Deborah, I'm still doing the course, but I've just got stuck on this bit because I emailed out to 9 or 10 schools and none of them have got back to me yet. None of them. Like 10 different children's activity providers. And after 2 weeks, nobody had got back. And I've heard that actually many times, multiple times, people told me that. I'd be really cheesed off if I was a parent at that stage. So that's, all these things need to be taken into consideration. Now, you can't do a secret shopper in terms of them turning up to the studio, but you could get somebody that you know to be a secret shopper and to email and go through the whole process right up until when they are supposed to turn up for the lesson. It could be a family member, it could be a friend, because if you get someone that really knows you that's doing this for you, they'll be completely honest. They're going to say, well, this was great. You got back to me straight away. But then when I came to book, it was actually quite tricky. I didn't really understand how to do that. And it was a bit of a pain that I had to email you to find out. Get someone that knows and loves you to be a secret shopper. Just say, at some point in the next month, I want you to inquire as if you're a new student and go through our process, and then give me a really honest review of how you felt throughout that. So first little challenge for you today, my darlings, go find someone to be your secret shopper. They can make up any age, any type of child, and find out what people are actually feeling and experiencing when they come towards you, when they come into your world. I hope that has got the brain going today. I hope it's got you thinking about your school, about your studio, about where there are places that you could improve on slightly. Or maybe you're sitting here thinking, I am so chuffed because I think we really nail everything. In which case, bravo to you. Well done. Do share with me if there's anything that you do that we haven't mentioned today. Or share with me if there's stuff that you know you're not quite so great at. Maybe I can help. All right, my darlings, take care. I'll see you soon. So I wanted to tell you that this episode is kindly sponsored by Sally at Dance Studio Marketing, who is your go-to solution for growing your dance school through the power of social media. So if you're feeling overwhelmed at trying to attract new students, at Dance Studio Marketing, Sally helps dance studio owners just like you to leverage the power of social media and paid ads to bring in a steady stream of students, which of course helps you to achieve more balance in your life. So if you're ready to grow with less stress, visit sallyprendergast.com, or you can connect with Sally at Dance Studio Marketing on your favorite social media platform today. My clients are getting fabulous results using Sally. So let's get those ads going and let's get your school growing. Hello and welcome, lovelies, to the Ultimate Dance Business Podcast. My name is Deborah Laws, the dance business expert. My passion is to help you turn your passion into profit while guiding you to work less and earn more. I'm super excited to share interviews with you that I know will inspire and motivate you in your schools, as well as my solo shows where I shall be sharing some great tips and strategies. So if you love the show, please do remember to review, subscribe, and share it with your fellow dance boss friends. So let's get stuck into the business of dance.